going on, everybody? Today we're talking about one of the most important yet often overlooked parts of the college football recruiting process, and that is what should you do after you attend a college football camp. You've attended the camp, you competed in front of the coaching staff, you've been measured, you've ran for them, maybe you had a conversation with that staff, maybe you had a really positive conversation that led to an offer, maybe the coaches gave you some positive feedback but didn't offer you, or maybe you left the camp without much feedback at all and a whole lot of disappointment. Regardless of what happened, your recruiting work does not end here with the camp's completion. It's really just getting started because camp's an evaluation opportunity, definitely not the finish line, and really what you do in the 24 to 48 hours after the camp and then into the preseason and then into the fall, that's going to determine whether that camp turns into a legitimate opportunity for you or not. We're also going to talk about the next steps and how that differs if you're a senior or a junior or if you're an underclassman. So let's get into it. First, we've got to start by understanding what that camp opportunity actually was. You got to understand that camp is only one piece of the overall evaluation on you, and college coaches, while sometimes they do offer you a scholarship at camp, the final decision is not being made in that one day that you're there on campus. They may be using the camp to verify something, whether that's height, weight, speed, how you change direction in person. They may be seeing if you can play another position. They may want to see how you respond to coaching. How do you compete when you're tired? How do you stack up against several other players at that position that they might have at that camp that day? You can leave camp without an offer and still have really helped yourself and maybe moved yourself up the board or into a very nice spot with that coaching staff and with that school in your recruitment. You could have been added to the recruiting board, like I said. You could have worked yourself onto that position coach's short list of guys to really take a look at after the camp. Maybe that coaching staff's going to evaluate your video from the camp. Maybe watch that side by side with your film, see how you stack up. Maybe you worked yourself into high priority status where that coaching staff's really going to be tracking what you do in the fall and getting your first 2 to 3 games and really dissecting that and seeing if you're a guy that they can possibly offer. So don't make the mistake of thinking that there's only 2 outcomes that can happen at camp, and that's getting offered or not getting offered, and it was a waste of time. Stuff can definitely still percolate post-camp. So the real question is this: what information did you gain from the camp, and what are you going to be doing with it? Within that first 24 hours post-camp, you need to be writing everything down. You can't assume you're going to remember every conversation that you had. Let's say you camped at 7 schools over a 3-week period. All that stuff's going to start to run together. You're definitely not going to remember every conversation that you had with every coach or recruiting staffer over that 3-week period. So within the first 24 hours of a camp, definitely make sure to track everything, write every little detail down about that camp, any conversation that you had. Do you think it could possibly go in the direction that you hope? Or is it a situation that might be dead in the water? Is it time to cross that school off the list? Whatever the notes or whatever the details are, be sure to track that while it's still fresh in your mind. Write down which coach you spoke with. Write down their name, their position that they coach, what area they might recruit, if it's your area. Any details to help you remember that conversation or that coach. Did they mention that your size is something that they look for? Did they talk about your speed or athleticism being what they recruit? Did they tell you what position that they see you playing in college? Did they tell you something that you can improve upon? Did they request your first 3 to 4 games of film? Did they invite you back in the fall for a visit? That could be a big positive sign. Did they give you their cell phone or personal email address? Oftentimes, those are the golden ticket in recruiting. So definitely a big takeaway there if you were lucky enough and fortunate enough to receive a coach's cell phone. Definitely what you're looking for as far as communication goes, and getting that off of DM and texting with them, or better yet, having weekly communication with them via phone call. That really tells you you're being recruited. Did they tell you when to specifically stay in contact and reach out? That's all stuff that you need to be writing down. You need to be adding all this information to whatever system or spreadsheet that you're using to keep everything organized and detailed when it comes to your recruiting process. Whatever you're using, I think it's got to have the school's name, coach's name, the date you attended camp, any feedback you received, current level of interest from the school, whether or not that school offered, or if you think they're close to offering, the next action that you plan to take and what date you plan on taking that, or if the coach told you, like I said, when to follow up. I would definitely have that written in there as well so you can be organized and thorough in doing that. Like I said, you can't rely on memory. Any serious recruiting process has to be organized and visible so you can see when and where action was taken and when you plan on taking that in the future. If you haven't already, post-camp, I would definitely send some sort of thank you. I think you're still within that window to send a thank you message to the coach, thanking them for the opportunity to compete and get some work in with them and learn from them. You can mention something specific from the camp or any conversation that you might have had or any details from the camp that might get that coach to recall you from their memory. Definitely want to make sure the coach knows who you are when you're messaging them. I think a good follow-up message post-camp, if you're unsure of what to send, could go a little something like this. Hey, coach, thank you for the opportunity to compete at camp. Really appreciate the opportunity to learn from you. I appreciate the tips you gave me on lowering my pad level. I look forward to working on the feedback that you gave me and keeping you updated throughout the fall with my film. Thank you. It's short, personal, it shows that you listen, and it gives the coach a reason to connect that message back to you. What you should not do is send the same generic message to all 10 coaches that you worked with over the course of the summer. They're definitely going to be able to see through that. Throw in some little specific detail. I think coaches definitely more likely to read that and more likely to respond to it as well. Another thing that I definitely would not be doing is asking repeatedly why you didn't get an offer. I would not continuously spam them with 5 messages repeatedly and a 2-day spam because they didn't respond to you. I wouldn't send a huge paragraph telling your life story either. Anytime you're messaging a coach, like I've said before, you want to keep it short and sweet and to the point. Really, you want to be appreciative, specific, and professional when you follow up post-camp. Next, when it comes to getting that feedback, if you're lucky enough to have gotten feedback from a coach, now we got to evaluate that feedback honestly. The feedback's going to fall into one of 3 categories. The first of which is positive feedback, which we all hope to get. And a coach may say, hey, we liked your film. You moved really well today. We really want to stay in contact. We want to get you back in the fall for a game. Send us your first 3 games. Those are all positive signs. They don't always guarantee an offer, but they can give you a clear direction. The second category is developmental feedback, and this is where a coach may tell you to improve your technique, or you need to add a little bit of mass to your frame. You need to get better speed, movement, flexibility skills. They may want to see you play a little bit more consistently on film if you had a great day at camp. They may tell you, hey, we think you might be another position for us. This feedback needs to become part of your preseason improvement plan and really what you use to make some strides in your film and improve the overall package of what you have to offer as a prospect so that you can move the needle in the right direction. The third type of feedback is usually general or just unclear feedback. And this is where a coach could say, good job, keep working, we'll be in touch, have a great season. This is where players often hear what they want to hear instead of what was actually being said. And you can't really turn positive encouragement like that into a scholarship offer, unfortunately. You got to listen to the exact words being used by the coach and not the version that you want to hear in your mind. If you were fortunate enough to receive an offer, first off, congratulations. I don't care what the level is. If you received an offer at camp, it's a major accomplishment. Definitely celebrate it, be proud of it, but don't assume that that offer means it's time to shut down the recruiting process. This is where a lot of guys get wrong once they receive their first offer or a few offers. What you need to understand right now is what kind of offer you actually received. Is it committable? Is it a full scholarship? Is it a partial scholarship? Is it a preferred walk-on or just a roster spot? Is there a timeline or shot clock for making a decision on this offer? When does the staff want you to come back and take an official visit? Or do they want you to only take an unofficial visit? Are there academic or admissions requirements that still need to be taken care of before this offer can become committable? You and your family should be having a clear conversation at some point with the coaching staff. And if they answer all these questions, and if they're diligent and quick in getting some feedback to you regarding this offer, then that shows, okay, they're serious about you too. They want you to commit just as much as you might want to commit based on how quickly they can get that information back to you. If they slow play you, that can definitely be something you can read into as well and take into consideration. But an offer graphic that's posted on social media, which is quite common nowadays, doesn't replace understanding exactly what that school has offered you. Once you know exactly what that offer entails, you can respond professionally with, hey, we're going to commit, we're ready to do that, or we need a little bit of time to make a decision, see some other places. based on what they give you as far as that time frame goes on responding to that offer. You want to thank the coaching staff, express genuine excitement. I don't care if your mom went to the rival school of that school that offered you, or you just grew up hating that school. Express genuine excitement, because that could end up being the best option of the bunch, or it could be your only offer that you could get throughout the process. And if you kind of threw some shade at them from the beginning and they received that as, hey, this guy's not really interested, that could be reflected poorly on you and really could come back to bite you in the end. So express genuine excitement, ask thoughtful questions, make sure your parents or your guardian, whoever's helping you make this decision, is involved in the process. I would speak with your high school coach if you really rely on them and trust them. You really just have to learn more about the program that made the offer before you make a quick and emotional decision, something that you could regret later on. Making the right decision can set you up for the rest of your life. So you definitely don't want to rush into something. Ask all the right questions and get some feedback from people that you trust to make sure that it's the right decision for you and your family, or the people that are in your corner. Also, just because you received maybe what you deem as the offer that is your dream school, I would not stop communicating with every other school. One school can create momentum, but you should continue evaluating all of your options until you're confident that you have the right fit in the school that you're going to commit to. Even if you're lucky enough to be committed going into your senior or junior year, you're going to be constantly evaluated each week that you put new film out. You're going to be evaluated just as hard, if not harder, than any remaining uncommitted guys that school is going after, because it's not a charity organization, and especially in today's day and age of college football, it's a business decision, and they need to be 100% sure on you, especially if there's a lot of NIL money coming your way upon signing. But in my time in college football, we probably had 2 to 4 guys each grad year that we were constantly evaluating, and they either regressed in their film from junior to senior year or sophomore to junior year. There was a character concern, or they just did something for us to really have some concerns about, hey, is this guy going to be what we really need? And, we've had to make some hard decisions where we told them, hey, you need to start looking elsewhere because your offer is no longer good. Oftentimes you'll see a lot of guys, when it gets late in the fall, open up their recruitment. And this is often when this type of thing happens. A school will tell them, hey, man, we're going to part ways with you, sadly. You're often going to see this in the late fall, where schools have to pull that scholarship and look elsewhere to somebody that's playing at a higher level or just brings more to the table for that school. But when it comes to keeping that door open with schools and keeping the conversation going, like I mentioned, this is where it's so important, because you may have taken a school off your list because they got 2 running backs committed. One may have suffered a devastating injury, and the other may have regressed from junior to senior year. Now they're looking for maybe 1, if not 2 running backs, and you could find yourself in a completely different scenario. So it's always important to keep the conversations alive with whatever schools have offered you or have shown a really heightened level of interest. Scholarship offers and obtaining those throughout the process can also help you really establish some leverage, but it's not something where I think you want to use it to manipulate coaches. Do not exaggerate the offer or terms of that, because the coaching profession is a very small world. They can easily ask, another coaching staff, or find out, through the grapevine what the terms of your offer might be. And, if you're a liar, that's not going to reflect well on you. I would not try to contact a school and impose any sort of fake deadline to expedite things either. That's not probably going to go well for you. If you're looking for an example of what to say here, again, I think keeping it short and sweet, you could say, hey, coach, I wanted to update you. I recently received an offer from school XYZ after attending their camp. I remain very interested in your school. Just wanted to ask where I stand in your evaluation process. That's honest. It gives the coach something they can work with. And if you're a guy that they had in camp also, and you really flash some positive things, that offer that you received from another school could be enough to really ignite conversations amongst that coaching staff and possibly get you offered at the school that you're reaching out to as well. That newly received offer can definitely grab the attention of other schools, but the film, academics, the communication, and how you interact with that coaching staff, they all still matter. If you were fortunate enough to receive an offer or multiple offers, those offers really just start the conversation. And especially if it's a newer school that you might not have a lot of background research on. That scholarship offer doesn't automatically tell you whether that school is the right fit. It's definitely something that's new and exciting, but you really want to make sure that you do your homework and you ask the right questions on these offers. You got to learn about the coaching staff. You got to learn about the position room and what's ahead of you. Is there going to be an opportunity to get on the field sooner rather than later? Does your skill set align with that scheme? Does that coaching staff have a history of developing players at a high level? You got to ask about the strength and conditioning department on the staff. Do they have a plan for developing you as well? You got to ask, what's the staff's plan for you, and how do they plan to develop you over that 4 to 5 year period? And you got to determine what's real versus what's BS, and you have to be able to sift through that, because they're going to try to tell you a lot of stuff that you want to hear, pump you up, make you feel good, all warm and fuzzy. But at the end of the day, what's going to help you the most and what's going to set you up for the best possible life, while you're there on campus, but also post-football. Continue to communicate with each school, send them relevant updates. You got to continue improving throughout the preseason, performing in the fall, and definitely do not act like the work is finished just because you received one offer. When it comes to building a relationship with that school that's offered you, if you're not talking weekly once you get into the preseason and into the fall on the phone and having a conversation with them, then you're not a high priority and you're not being recruited seriously by that school. DMing through social media, they might be trying to keep you warm, but things are not serious. So you might need to start reevaluating your options at that point, which we'll get into in a part 2 to this video. But if you like the content in this video today, please like, subscribe, comment, share it with a friend if you think it'll help them or somebody that you know that's going through the recruiting process. But looking forward to getting back for part 2, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks.